Again, I'm giving you the basic building blocks of a sales marketing campaign that sells itself. You don't have to work too hard to close them on something. So in this business, you don't always have to hammer it. This is not a hammering business. Once you build up that relation, educate them on the loan programs, what they have to offer and their benefits or advantages of using a particular loan program. That's powerful in this mortgage and real estate business as well. So that, for instance, if someone is a realtor can only pre-qualify them for a real estate property deal, right? They don't qualify them for a loan. They're not a loan officer. They're not allowed to do that. So you can work off of that. Use that to your advantage to build up also trusted relations with real estate brokers and realtors, property managers and builders. So first off, I would say focusing on real estate brokers and realtors is a wise idea, and then sending them prospecting emails and then introducing the loan programs that they can work with to somehow pre-qualify their borrowers. But you're the one qualifying the borrowers. They can only pre-qualify someone as a buyer. Okay, so they can ask things like what's their budget range, and then what's their type of locale they prefer, where they would like to live, the amenities, accommodations, whatnot, and the relative monthly payments they can afford. But then once they get too much into that loan side, they must work with a loan officer, because they cannot easily pre-approve anyone for a loan unless they're dual licensees. Those could be quite effective in the business. If someone is DRE and MLS at the same time, that can be effective, but then it's too much work many times, so they have to still kind of sort of work with a loan officer. So use that to your advantage, because the realtor's job stops right there, where they have to refer their buyer slash borrower via the trusted network to someone who knows the loan programs, who's local usually, who will then pre-qualify them, qualify and pre-approve, and then the lender finally approves them. So you have to go through that conveyor belt process and use the proper terms with them so that they understand your language, you understand their language, then you are all on the same page. That's important to know, because communication is the key. So in this business, how do you win the most? You win the most by being a very reliable worker. Always be reliable to everyone and use all the methods. So for instance, to go over all the other methods, you can do many more of the common methods of advertising. So you can do the social media, the ads, the listings, the campaigns, even a few newsletters, if that's also viable. Then you can also do flyers. You can do meetings in person also. These are very important, because to be able to meet in person is very effective, because it builds up trust more. You'll just win more. So don't forget that joining these events like meetup.com also is a great network to join the events, to start networking more, and to start prospecting more for business without pushing too much for business, because this is mainly a sales-driven campaign, yet at the same time you have to understand that people will start referring business to you once you will have established more of a reputation amongst them, and they'll just trust you. So don't work too hard, don't seem desperate. In the marketing sales behavior and psychology, you learn that if you seem desperate to close a deal, a loan, people will sense that it's off-putting to the borrower, it's off-putting even to brokers and realtors if you are working with them in some kind of a joint alliance as a trusted mortgage brokerage lender slash loan officer. So we have to basically understand that not everything is going to be given to you on a silver and golden platter. You have to work hard enough for your own leads. You have to be able to maintain your own lead gen system and keep remarketing your own networks. And remarketing is a powerful principle. That's another one I'm going to convey today, is that once you learn how to prospect them on the intervals that are not obtrusive, you will know when to follow up with them, when not to follow up with it. And then just keep track of that, either the deal status or the loan status column there on the lead gen CRM systems. Have these cloud infrastructure lead gen systems there via the spreadsheets that do keep track of the pre-qualification process. So you can do the pre-qual analysis, and then you can also start packaging the loan based on the pipeline reports that you can have. So you have to understand the loan packaging versus loan processing. There is a difference. As a loan officer, you can package the loan, but you don't want to process it because you're not a processor. You can give it over to the processors or the lender via the broker company that's employing you for the sponsorship. So this way, it's a much more faster, more efficient process. You always have to think of methods that simplify your work, simplify everyone else's work, and then the marketing sales campaign, you have to understand what's effective, what's simple, what works. So for instance, a simpler icebreaker that you can send via text even, or an email. Usually use all communication methods at once. This way it triples the exposure levels if you want to get technical with marketing. So like for instance, if you do use an email follow-up, okay, well, send them an email, that's one thing. Then follow up, if you do have their phone number, follow up by text or so. Say, hey, I sent you an email. Usually it's proper etiquette to follow up by a phone call after sending the email prospecting campaign. And this is not your newsletter, there's a difference. It's just an individual, very well crafted, personal type business email where it's to one person, individualized campaign. It says something like, hi John, I was just wondering if you're interested in potentially working together with some of our loan programs or so. I can work with you as a loan officer, something like that. You know, this is again to real estate brokers and realtors. Again, you don't want to directly prospect the borrower too much. It works differently like that. You know, it has to be a clever, smart campaign that you have to be trained to do, not to directly solicit too many loans at once from the potential borrowers. Even though you can post ads, you can post things like, you know, if anyone needs a loan right now, and anyone thinking of buying or selling their house, I can help you be qualified for a loan. You don't want to promise them anything that you will qualify them, you will approve them. See, these are absolute terms in marketing that you don't want to use. You don't want to promise anything you cannot deliver, basically, or you cannot easily substantiate. So yeah, just be careful with advertising. If you do post ads on social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram also, and via Instagram you can also somehow reach out directly via private message, just like on Facebook. Start working with your warm markets first. This is your classical sales training strategy. Always teaches you how to tap into your personal warm markets first. These are personal contacts that everyone has. Everyone has that network already. So why not use it? Try to use it as often as possible, because chances are you might already know someone who is selling their house, going to buy a house, who will need a loan. Or they might be moving from an apartment or a condo and they want to upgrade to a house. It doesn't matter what their living situation is. It depends on the loan scenario, the loan package that you want to somehow offer them. So for instance, a typical contact will then probably would want to upgrade from an apartment to then buy a townhome or a house, a lot house. The reason for that, because people might be starting a family, so you really have to know the demographics of those who are likely to buy a home. If they're likely to buy a home, that means they're likely to be a borrower, because rarely you get someone who's going to be a cash buyer unless they're an investor. If they're an investor, there's a different sales marketing approach with them. Again, you don't want to somehow over-market it to them. Like for instance, once you realize it's an investment property, maybe even a commercial property, well, could be a private loan then, so that means real estate investors might be involved in there. So you'd have to know the difference between a conventional loan and private money loan, and pre-qualifications and lending guidelines and principles and regulations that do adhere to those programs. So be knowledgeable about everything that you're offering, and you'll be very happy with your results. The employing sponsoring company will also be happy with you. Don't be afraid to share your knowledge, okay? That's another marketing sales strategy that I have. Reveal what you know as facts, what you know that works, what you know for sure that will close the loan deal faster. And things like knowledge pretty much sell themselves. So that means you don't have to worry about it. The most knowledgeable loan officers, the most efficient communicators, the most effective loan packagers, if you will, who are knowledgeable about their loan programs and who want to provide the best deal, who are also flexible in the business deal structures and the loan structuring for their borrowers' clients, are the ones who will win out the most. They will close more loans faster, and they will provide the great deals to the consumers, and they'll be just much happier with their own performance. Now, to then sum up more of the marketing sales strategies, how and what do you want to do in terms of a very effective sales marketing campaign? Again, you don't want to sell them too much on these things because you're not a sales rep. Keep in mind, you're a consultant. You're consulting them on their best options for the programs, for the mortgages. If it's a direct borrower, then you have to communicate with them at that level of a loan officer to borrower relation, which means you have to understand how consumers speak versus how loan officers speak. Don't use way too many technical terms with them. You can educate them, but don't get overly technical because they will not understand what you're saying. Always be able to break it down into their own language, and they will really appreciate that from you. So if you're talking to real estate brokers and realtors and builders, also maybe some flippers who will need a hard money loan, be able to understand their language as well, because they speak differently. With those, you can use more technical terms, because what we found out from our experience is that those types of target markets, to use the technical marketing term, and the demographics for those target audiences that do understand the technical language, they will be able to expedite things for you. So if you are clear and precise in your communication, that will speed things up as well. So use the best communication methods and triple the level of exposure that you're using in prospecting campaigns for the professional side also, like if it's real estate brokers, realtors, builders, and flippers. So you can obtain more loan scenarios from them, and they will transfer it to you. Again, once you've built up that relation of trust, they will answer your questions. They will transfer those loan scenarios easily to you via your secure email. Always use secure inboxes with your very marketable, proper signature there that states your sponsoring company, your phone number that's easy to reach. Don't have a glitchy phone number, or don't have bizarre 800 numbers that go nowhere for spam calls. That states also your email address that's at company inbox, and that's the official reputation marketing. Again, that's important to build up trust, because if it specifies that you work for that company and you have that inbox there and it's clearly laid out there in the signature, and also the phone number that's reachable, and your title that's properly listed there. You have to be very accurate with your title. You know, if you're not a realtor, obviously you cannot call yourself that. If you're a loan officer, senior loan officer, whoever you are, or if you're not a processor, again, you don't want to call yourself that. Just be very clear in stipulating it. Or if you're not a loan broker as well, to be a mortgage broker, you have to have obviously a brokerage license. It's a slightly different license to be a mortgage broker than to be just a loan officer. It's almost like an upgraded license that you can get. On that, you can consult with NMLS systems to see, or how you can also consult with DBO on certain legalities or technical matters. So this is mainly about business marketing, so you have to kind of stick with it. And it's up to you to know all the legalities and regulations and guidelines on licensing already. There are certain valuable resources that you can use as a reference to stay up to date, because it does change from year to year, certain guidelines, regulations, stuff like that. You have to just know them very well. And then always keep your license up to date. Obviously, sometimes, like if it's in your signature, if you're marketing yourself very well with your signature in your emails, make sure that you always have an up-to-date, non-expired license that's properly licensed in the state that you want to do business where. So you'd have to basically also have a proper valid license with the sponsoring employer company that also has an up-to-date license in good standing, because people nowadays do run a reputation background search, and we want to keep the reputation clean, reliable, honest, transparent. And this is how to run a business. This is how people will trust you in the first place. You know, once you process or once you qualify one of the borrowers via the realty brokerage, let's say, and you do a great job with them, you provide a great deal to the borrower, and at the same time, you're also providing very efficient communications, and also you're knowledgeable about the lending guidelines, and you're knowledgeable about the loan packaging process, and certain application systems, also the 1003s, how those get filled out, and then how to get all the disclosures in place, and then to get the employment verification, income verification statements up to 2 years or so, and then also to get the DTIs. DTIs are extremely important, and again, this is when you're doing the loan packaging. You're also doing a presentation for them. Once you've packaged it very well, you can always tell the borrower, see what I've done there. We are doing everything we can to then get the most accurate information, get all the docs from you efficiently so that everything is accurate. And then you can always prove to the borrower or a realtor broker, if you're working on that side, then that everything is packaged accurately and efficiently, and everything works just well. So just always provide that honest, reliable service, and you'll be okay. So you don't have anything to worry about. then just do the best job you can with the marketing sales campaigns, and do the loan packaging properly also, and that will sell itself.